Therapist. I'm here in my office in Lausanne, Switzerland. It's 8:30 at night, Central European summertime. It is Monday, the 26th of May, 2025, and we're in our fifth week of our 10-week challenge, 70-day challenge. So this evening, I'd like to talk about staying calm in the middle of chaos, which is obviously something very important to discuss and to reflect on and to know how to deal with. First, as usual, I'll talk a little bit about myself, where I'm up to, since I'm also participating in the 70-day challenge with everybody else. So it's nice to know that I'm still here and I'm doing it. As it's Monday, it's a fasting day. That means I'm not eating anything at all today. I'll be eating something maybe sometime tomorrow because I'm supposed to have more protein. So I'll have something proteiny. And also because it's complicated to eat too much in the evening and Tuesday night. It's a complicated night because I do this live casting 8:30 at night, and then if I'm in the office like tonight, I won't get home till 9:30ish, and it's a bit late to be eating for my poor old stomach and digestive system. And so anyway, today it's fasting, and it's been tough. I did a lot of administration this morning, and I don't know why, but it really tired me out. Well, administration always tires me out. So it was a bit difficult this afternoon. As I'm fasting, it's black coffee, which I don't have a habit of drinking and I don't like. I thought at least the black coffee would help something. And then I went and there was no coffee left in the office. So fortunately, a bit later on, our assistant went out and bought some coffee. So finally, I had a bit of coffee to keep me going. And then I had one quick space in the end of the afternoon. I rushed over to the gym and did 3/4 of an hour of fitness training, which went quite well, although it was a bit stressed, obviously, for the time. And I came back, and here I am. So, staying calm in the middle of chaos. First of all, I'll start with a quotation from Richard Kipling. From If, which is one of my favorite poems. And it's the first few lines. And it starts off, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs or blaming it on you. And that is really one of the most dangerous things that arrive in life is that other people get emotionally fraught. They get involved, they get excited, they get stressed, they feel bad. And eventually it lands on us. And we're supposed to deal with it. We're supposed to do something about it. It's sort of our fault, our responsibility. We're supposed to find the solutions or carry the weight or things like that. And often we get drawn into that. We get excited by that. We get scared by that. We get invested in this. And this takes us on a road, on a path that is unhealthy for us. We need to be able to notice when stress comes from the outside. Now, sometimes it's true, we do things ourselves. We make our own messes. We do. And we need to get ourselves out of those messes. But even the messes that we get ourselves into, sometimes we need to take a bit of distance. We need to take a step back. And taking the step back or being calm is so very important to not make more mess or burn ourselves out. This is something that I dealt with a little bit in the hypnosis meditation yesterday about being a tree. Being a tree is a very, very interesting and useful image to have. Because when there's a storm all around you, an emotional storm, if you can just stop for a moment and imagine that your toes become roots and they become rooted into the ground, into the soil, and they become an anchor. And as they become an anchor, you feel yourself becoming more and more solid as a tree. And the tree, if it's big enough, and strong enough and thick enough. It doesn't get pushed by the wind left and right and center. It stays still. And in the center of yourself as a tree, if you can find that stillness, remember a tree is alive. It's not dead, it's not inert, it's not a mountain, it's not a building, it's a tree. It's something that is alive. But within that being alive, there is a stillness, there is a solidity, there is a calm. And this is so important in life, is not to allow ourselves to be taken by this chaos. Because chaos there is, and chaos there will be. It can be chaos in your working environment, or chaos in your home environment with your family, or chaos with your friends and associates. There is so much happening. And also, of course, there's political chaos, religious chaos. There's so much going on around us in the world today. Now, one of the things that I have noticed is that some people are so open to allow themselves to be swept up in the excitement, in the chaos, in the problems, in the fight, in these battles. Now, of course, there are real battles. In Ukraine, that's a real battle. One could say in Israel and Gaza, there's still some battles going on. There are now huge political battles happening in America, where you have the administration that's trying to take much more power. Whether it's legitimate or not, that's for you to reflect on. And a lot of people are very excited about that. And maybe in those circumstances, in a lot of regime, a lot of situations where the politics can influence our lives, it might be absolutely necessary to react. But there is a big difference between reacting for something that is going to have a real effect on our lives, or reacting for things that we just feel emotionally moved about, that the truth of the matter is we're not going to change much, even if we get very upset or very excited about it. So this is a very nuanced situation. I am not saying that never react. I'm not saying that sometimes reacting quickly is wrong. I'm saying that it's important to be able to take a moment, just a moment, I'm going to cough now, excuse me, to take a moment to reflect. What am I getting into? Why am I doing this? Is it for something that has a value for me? Now you can say, well, that sounds a very selfish attitude. But to have a value for you can be to help someone else. It's not, does it only help me and I don't care about anybody else? That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying, does it have a value for me as a human being, which includes caring about and supporting other people? And then what's really important is to say, what is it that I should be doing that will bring the greatest benefit in a situation where I feel I should be acting? And this is something that most people don't allow themselves the space. They get caught up in movements, in arguments, in reflections, in emotional storms. They get caught up in it. And they do not anchor themselves, they do not root themselves for a moment to say, what am I getting myself into? What am I doing? What is likely to be the outcome for me? And it's really important they say, what is the outcome for you? Because you are ultimately responsible for yourself, for your own well being, because most other people in the universe don't care about you. So if you get drawn into doing something for maybe a good cause, maybe not, who knows? You need to be aware what your personal cost and benefits are. And to do that, you need to take a moment. You need to take space. You need to take distance. This is very, very important. One of the most unfortunate things I find in life is to be an employee of a boss or a manager that takes you emotionally in, that you get drawn in to what is happening in the business as if it's your personal business, as if it's your personal responsibility, as if the success of the business is your personal success without it being so. I'm not saying if you're a shareholder, I'm not saying if you get a huge bonus at the end of the year if things go well. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about most people. Most people do not benefit directly if their business benefits. They get told that if it does well, then your job is secure and maybe you'll get a pay rise, maybe you'll get a benefit. But unfortunately, generally, most of that is just you being sold. You're being sold a bill of goods. You're being sold an idea. You're being brought into the excitement or the fear that the business has for itself. And at the end of the day, you're just an employee. I remember at the beginning of this clinic, we had one of some of the psychologists, even still now we have some of the psychologists that are very invested and they stay late. And I often go to them and say, look, this is not your business. I don't know what you expect to be doing. What actually at the beginning, we had no specific system of how much was supposed to work. They had an idea and it wasn't checked. Afterwards, we got a quota system, which is much clearer because if they work too much, then they get more holidays and things like that. It balances out. But at the beginning, there was nothing like that. And I remember it was in the first years, there was this psychologist that was like working and working. I said, look, this is not your business. If we do well, then it's nice for us, but it doesn't help you. Oh, mean. And I said, go home, look after yourself. Don't get involved. Don't think this is your business. Don't get sold by your own willingness and your own desire to be a good girl. It's a woman, by the way. Yeah. And so very often we get employers, we get managers that say, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. It's important. We've got this deadline and we've got to reach this deadline. If we don't get this deadline, we won't get this job or we'll lose this or this, that, and the other. And it's all very, very important. And we got to get this this out and we've got to do this. It's like, no, this is not your thing. And if they constantly, from time to time, it's always possible there is a problem and people have to make an effort, pull their weight and help in a moment of crisis. But these moments of crisis should appear rarely. They shouldn't be regular. And if there's this regular crisis, which in some businesses we find, then it's a dysfunction of the business. And because you get involved, you get excited and you start to do this extra work and put in this huge extra effort, it only reinforces them dysfunctioning because you take on the responsibility. You join in the chaos. You lose yourself. You lose your center. You lose the idea that you have, like a tree, a limit. That's your territory. That's your space. That's your responsibility. Nothing more. Don't get lost. Don't allow other people's chaos, other people's emotional excitement or fear or whatever to drag you into that. And so you lose yourself. So you lose your center. You lose your ability to assess what is reasonable. What is the best way to advance? Because once we're in this maelstrom of emotion, we also often lose our capacity to find the best solution. We're just wanting to react. We're in this reactivity. And reactivity is not necessarily the best way to go forward and find solutions. Take a step back and breathe and reflect. Go have a cigarette, drink a coffee, go for a short walk, go to the toilet, do whatever it is that you tend to do, which is appropriate for you, that gives you the time and the space to move away from this emotional storm. Move away from it. Wait for it to take distance. Because if you take distance, then you can see what's going on. And the other thing is that quite often in these circumstances, this is important, this needs to be done now, this needs to be done, this needs this. And quite often, if it doesn't get done, strangely enough, the world advances, time passes, and often these things that are so important stop being important. They just pass. The deadline goes, and nothing bad happens. I'm not saying it never happens. I'm not saying that every time there's a deadline, just say, "Oh, I can't be bothered, it'll be fine." No, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is try and assess if this deadline is as important as the person thinks it is, or is trying to make you convinced that it is. And very often, I've found in my own experience and the experience of my patients, is that some of these deadlines, when you just don't meet them, they create another one, or something else happens, or someone gets negotiated. Um, because this clinic is a business, and because for good or for bad, I'm pretty much responsible for a bit more than half of the business. It's split into different responsibilities, but I'm responsible for approximately 60% of the business. Um, and because the psychologist, and because sometimes the insurance is paid, sometimes they don't pay, sometimes people pay, sometimes don't pay, and some people go on holiday, and some people get sick. So the money that comes in is very variable. And also the bills that come in are quite variable because we have all sorts of professional bills. We have something called the deuxième pilier, which is the retirement fund, which is dealt with by outside organizations. And they just send us these horribly high, expensive bills from time to time and other sorts of things like that. And quite often I could find myself with a cash flow problem. And it's like, oh my God, I've got bills for thousands and thousands and thousands of francs and don't have enough money to pay. Obviously, the first priority is the wages, and then the rent, and after that, whatever's left, pay the bills with. Now, if the bills are there and you say you must pay this, and also this thing with the retirement, they're quite strict and they're quite aggressive if you don't pay what they ask when they ask you for it. Um, it's okay. It's okay because if I go around and I panic and I try and borrow money, it's going to be a mess. So I just take a step back and I say, okay, I'll phone them up. I'll talk to them. My taxes. Sometimes my taxes I'm in advance, sometimes I'm behind. And I get a reminder from the tax office. It's like, hey, you've not paid your taxes. You're like a fortune. So this morning, for instance, I went to the tax office and I said, look, I'm supposed to be paying this, and now you want me to pay that, and don't have enough money. What can we do? So we looked at them and shook his head a bit, and he said, can you pay this by so much a month? So we put all the bills together, and I have an arrangement to pay. No stress. It's calm. There's no panicking because I have bills I don't have money to pay. It's just a question of saying, how can I organize this? What's reasonable? What will function? What can I assume? No panic. Stay calm. Be reasonable. Now, you might ask, the image that I've put out, which maybe you've seen, maybe you've not seen yet, is an accountant. An accountant with the earth sort of like falling to pieces. So why the accountant? Well, the accountant is one of my archetypes. I have in my therapy process created a number of archetypes, which are also coping strategies. Now, I use these images, which are professions, to help the patients to see and to imagine ways of dealing with life. The way I look at it is that in our youth, in our early years, we get taught 4, 5, 6 different basic coping strategies. And those strategies we take through life. Even if we get older, even if life changes, those are the coping strategies that we have a habit of using. Now, hopefully, they're coping strategies that are very flexible or very usable, and we can use in many situations, and we have the situations to deal with them. However, which is more likely, especially for my patients because they're not functioning very well, the coping strategies that they put into place are not that useful for many situations. So they need to find new ones. And to find new ones, I've created this concept of archetypes, which gives them an image, that gives them a story, that gives them something they can hold on to, and so they can try and open up themselves to new ways of dealing with life, new coping strategies. And one of the coping strategies, one of the archetypes I've created, is the accountant. And the whole purpose of the accountant is to look at life as if you're looking just at numbers. Not anything more than that. Is just to calm yourself down and say, this is not based on anything other than facts, than figures, than reality. Not somebody's emotional reaction to reality, but the reality itself. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for my enterprise? What does it mean for my family and my relationships? What does it mean? As opposed to, oh my God, this is awful. I must react. I must do this. I must do that. Because it doesn't always change anything. What is important is that things happen. The things happen as they should. Now, I'm going to talk about some things which I think I spoke about just in the French part just before. If I've already spoken about in the English part, because I don't know exactly what I've said at what point, I'm sorry, I apologize. But I have ideas that come to mind, and as I say, I've given a lot of them in the French, and I don't think I've said them in the English part. Anyway, so one of the things that's very important is that storms pass. Storms don't last forever. And often what is the best thing to do in a storm is not react. To see if something dangerous is likely to happen. This is what I said, that in your business, if someone keeps going to, you must get this done, there's a deadline, there's a deadline, there's a deadline, is to try and assess that is this thing that important that if you pass the deadline, that all hell's going to break loose or everything's going to fall to pieces, because sometimes it doesn't. You just let the deadline pass and you see what happens. And then if necessary, you catch it up afterwards. But often this huge effort that we need to put in to correct something, to change something, it's not worth it, it's not necessary. And it can also happen in relationships. Something happens, so I had a patient, and she came to me and said, Mr. Gadol, I don't know what to do. My husband won't let me use the car anymore. I said, that sounds pretty tough. And I said, what happened? He said, well, he had a big meeting, and it was his turn to use the car, and I forgot to put petrol in, and he had to stop and put petrol in, and he was late for his meeting. He was very, very angry. He's very upset, and he's taken the car keys, and I can't use the car anymore. And I don't know what to do because I need to go and pick up the kids on Tuesday, I think it was. It was on a Friday. And I said, well, what do you plan to do? He says, well, I think I'm going to have an argument with him. I'm going to explain to him and the kids, and it's no good, and he's controlling. And I said, but he's always been like that. He gets upset. He has crises, like storms. So the storm will pass. She said, but if he doesn't pass, how am I going to get the kids? I said, don't worry about it. Don't react. Be calm. Be centered. Don't even discuss it. Because if you discuss it, then he'll have to position himself. And if he positions himself, he might get more rigid in his position. He was very upset. He's had a reaction. He's done something stupid. Somewhere he must know he's done something stupid. But if you talk to him about it, then he's going to double down on that. And he's going to find some way or means to keep the car, not have the car. And then you really will have problems next week. Don't say or do anything. Just act as if nothing has happened, nothing has been said, and we'll see. So next Friday comes around, she comes, and she said, Mr. Ghetto, you're a genius. Like that. Nice. I said, okay, tell me exactly why I'm a genius, because I like to hear how I'm a genius. And she says, I did what you suggested. I didn't say anything. I didn't discuss it. Over the weekend, we went together in the car to go shopping and things. I didn't say anything. He drove. Usually I drive, but, he drove. So I just left him like that. And then Tuesday morning came. And he went to work. It's the day I have the car because I go and pick up the kids. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And then I looked in the usual place where the keys are, and they were there. He'd left the keys, as usual, for me to take the car and pick up the kids. And then that was it. And he's never discussed it again. He's never mentioned it again. And as you suggested, I've never mentioned it either. So it's just disappeared. I mean, she didn't know. She said, how could that happen? He was so angry, it was so clear, and there was this, that, and the other. I said, because it was a storm. And often in chaos, in storms, in whirlwinds, emotional whirlwinds, if you get involved, you could be pulled all over the place. If you stay centered, what they call the eye of the storm, you stay in the middle of the storm, very middle of the storm, and you stay in the middle of it, it's calm. Or if a storm is moving and you find somewhere to shelter from it, then just wait. The storm will pass you by. So when you're in the middle of chaos, in the middle of the storm, when badness is happening, find yourself somewhere safe, somewhere quiet. Assess whether the storm is likely to create damage and you have to act. But most of the times in life, we don't. We just have to be peaceful and centered, anchored, rooted like a tree. And we just stay there. We just wait for the storm to pass, for the chaos to sort itself out. So that's this evening discussion. I hope it's been helpful for you. We know in the 70-day challenge, sometimes we have moments also when we feel emotional storms and we're not sure we can make it and we get upset and we get frustrated. Don't worry. It passes. I promise you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Remember, I'm here 6 times a week. Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday afternoon. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Remember, this is all free. I'm just here for you. I'm here to meet as many people as possible. I'm advertising for individual sessions in the summer. So if you know someone or yourself, like an individual session with me, let me know. It's on the internet, so that people will see it, but it is free. And maybe I can help you with some problems. So that's all for now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. So get ready to get up. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.